As part of the National Health Insurance Plan, the Health Department is reorganizing the healthcare system to reach people before they are sick. One of the ways it is doing this is by setting up schools outreach teams to visit schools and screen children for health problems and make sure they have had all their vaccinations. One of the NHI pilot districts is the Amajuba district in KwaZulu-Natal, which has been setting up these schools outreach teams. Teams of professional nurses visit schools in the area and offer essential healthcare screenings and education to students.
These school health teams are looking at preventive, promotive, as well as corrective therapeutic needs for children at schools. So what this means is that those children who have not received any level of care during their preschool years, the school health teams are there to actually ensure provision of those health services.
So schools play a critical role in promoting the health and safety of young people and helping them establish lifelong behavioral patterns. Now, establishing healthy behaviors during childhood is easier and more effective than trying to change unhealthy behaviors during adulthood. Now, research shows a definite link between health outcomes of young people and their academic success. Now, to have the most important positive impact on the health outcomes of young people, government, community organizations, schools, and community members must work together through a collaborative and comprehensive approach. So today we discuss school health. We'll be joined in studio by the Child, Youth and School Health Directorate from the National Department of Health, a pediatrician from Charlotte Maxeke Johannesburg Academic Hospital, an educational psychologist, a dietitian, and an occupational therapist. Now, be part of the show by asking the panel some questions or simply just sharing your views with us. The number to call in that case is Johannesburg 714-6918 or 6919. You can also tweet us at SABC Health Talk or simply interact with us on our Facebook page, SABC Health Talk. So sit back, relax, and learn from this bumper show coming to you just after a short break. I'm Dr. Salom Madaum, and this is Health Talk.
Life can throw all sorts of surprises at you, often when you least expect it.
Sorry, Mom.
That's why it's important to have medical cover. Me? I didn't want just any medical scheme. I wanted a scheme that I could rely on, that I could talk to at any time, that I could afford. I didn't just get medical aid. I got medical paid.
Working for SABC News, I can comfortably say that it has afforded me the opportunity to have a balanced view of society, covering live events from all over the country. I've seen the hunger that people actually have for independent and impartial news. I'm Nompumelelo Mthethwa, and I am SABC News.
Don't be afraid to open yourself up to new experiences. Exchange and share ideas and crafts. I want to move on from the idea of the African as an exotic person who dances nicely and makes good artwork. We must be at the cutting edge of everything possible, as we once were. Many ancient African kingdoms had scientific and mathematical knowledge that still baffles experts today.
When I look at Africa, I see hope, I see trust, bright colors, warm smiles, variety and difference. In the end, it's not just about wanting to know what the African look is or if we have a common African identity.
Elesikuthula primary school sizokwenza basic assessment. So basic assessment generally is just a physical assessment of our learners from head to toe. Bese ezinye sibhalela ama referral letters okuzisa ema-clinic noma lapho kusuke khona umfundi ezothola usizo khona.
By being able to refer cases directly to clinics, they can ensure children get treatment early and prevent complications.
integrated school health program kwafuneka ukuthi siqale ngokuthi silinke izikole nama clinics because they are now based kuma clinics kunzothi mangabe bane problem engane ayithathe ayirefer to the nearest clinic.
Teachers and nurses are now able to work closely together to ensure the good health of students.
Uqala bebethi mangabe behamba beya ku school health services nje kube sengathi baya intrude mabefika ama school health nurses ezikoleni ukuthi they don't have that understanding why are they interfering nokufundisa kwabo. Kodwa after introduction of integrated school health program wangena Department of Education.
Sister Bingo is one of the highly experienced nurses who are part of this program. She began working as a nurse in 1998 and is using her years of experience to help school children in the deep rural areas of Newcastle.
Ngizime siyithola ngelanga ngizokhipha anikhipha iphele elikhulu kanjani indlebeni engane kunzima impela enganeni especially ezasemakhaya. At the end of the day uyoku uyicabanga lezi zinto uthi ngibona ingane enjena ene problem enjena.
The school's health program bridges the gap between rich and poor by ensuring that all school-going children across South Africa have access to healthcare.
All right, so let's learn more about school health and all the challenges that school kids face and obviously the solutions. And it's a great pleasure to welcome our special guests. First up is Professor Leslie Bamford, who's a specialist in the Child, Youth and School Health Directorate from the National Department of Health. Welcome to Health Talk, Prof.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers. Thank you for having me.
Okay, and then next, the gentleman in the middle, Dr. Dalubu Hlendiweni, who's a principal pediatrician at Charlotte Maxeke Johannesburg Academic Hospital. Welcome to Health Talk, Doc.
Welcome. Nice to be here.
All right, thanks. And last but not least is Jenny Da Silva. Jenny is an educational psychologist in private practice here in Johannesburg, somewhere around Randburg. Eh?
Yes,
welcome to Health Talk, Jenny.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right. First, let's start with you, Dr. Ndiweni. We heard in the clip some of the challenges that the sister was referring to, picking up the cockroach from a child's ear. But certainly there are many problems. Obviously, I mean, this is obviously that time of the year when all parents are eager to see their children, go through school smoothly. But there can be challenges. There can be health challenges. Can you just take us perhaps through some of the most common health challenges that school-going children of school-going age, can suffer from?
It's a multiple of them. They involve chest problems.
Yeah.
They may involve skin problems, and they may involve oral health or teeth, and they may involve others that are neurological in nature,
yeah.
Which would actually impact on behavior and other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But very commonly, in the chest problem, they may have asthma, meaning that they will cough mostly and they will be breathless, and therefore the teacher would need to understand what is going on.
Okay.
Right. And some of them may have diabetes, which is also a problem, and therefore you would need the teacher and the assistants to know how to respond to such challenges while they're in the class.
Yeah, yeah. And Prof, I suppose, some parents might not know. Let's just talk about why some of these conditions do take place or do happen, why it's important, for instance, to screen, because we're saying that these kids may come to school with these conditions that are undiagnosed. What could be the possible reasons why they remain undiagnosed at that level?
Well, perhaps there are two main reasons. I think the first one is that, as was shown in the clip, we know that there are children in particularly our very rural areas who don't have good access to health facilities.
Right.
So these children may have had conditions that for one or other reason they haven't been taken to one of our primary health care facilities. Also, sometimes children have conditions that are not very obvious. And I think two that we particularly focus on are hearing and vision. So parents may not be aware that the child has a problem with vision or hearing.
Right.
But those are extremely important barriers to learning that will impact negatively on the child's learning.
Yeah.
And so it is very important to identify and address those problems as early as possible. Ideally, we would like to do it before children come to school, but when children enter school, we need to make sure that they can see and hear well, so that they can benefit from the teaching and learning in schools.
Right. Dr. Ndiweni, you mentioned chest problems and some conditions affecting the skin, for instance. Let's talk about the ones that are likely to impact other children, like, for instance, infectious diseases. Any common ones that you can think of?
Well, the most common ones would include what we call impetigo, which is skin infections caused by frequently a number of organisms which can be passed to each other. And those are quite common. There may be things like scabies, for instance, that can also be passed from one people to the other, or one learner to the other, and therefore they would need assistance in getting rid of them. There could even be lice in the head or skin on body. They are very quite common, and they may also need attention.
Right.
So when identified easily, then they will prevent from spreading from one child to the next one.
Okay. And how common, by the way, just before we get to Jenny now, how common are these health problems in children? Do you see lots of them, perhaps?
I'm thinking about, in our integrated school health program, about a fifth to a quarter of the children who we see need to be referred for further treatment. Now, that covers a variety of conditions, including the things I was talking about, vision problems, hearing problems. Many of our children, unfortunately, have poor oral health, so they need to be referred to an oral hygienist or a dentist because of problems with their teeth and gums.
So about 25%, it's quite significant, 25 to 33%. Jenny, let's bring you in here. I mean, we've been focusing more on physical conditions and infectious conditions and so on. But surely on the mental and psychological side, there may be issues affecting children.
Absolutely.
Right.
From anything, trauma is a big one that impacts on a child's working memory, concentration, then suffers. From anxiety, that is becoming more and more prevalent as the years go by.
Well, talk about anxiety. There's this notion of separation anxiety. It's the first day at school, and some of the kids aren't too happy about the fact that they have to leave home and spend a day with somebody that they don't know, and that sort of thing. Tell us a bit about separation anxiety affecting kids.
Well, it does happen in quite a number of children, especially children going from a nursery school to grade R in big school, or from grade R to grade 1. It also then happens in older children, going from your grade 7 into grade 8. So anytime there's that change in schools. And for the little ones, it's important to prepare them and to let them know that mom and dad are coming back. They're not just leaving you here, they're coming back.
Right.
And to also, try and customize them or acclimatize them to the school environment before they go.
Right.
So this is where you're going to go to school, this is what you're going to do, and then afterwards, mom or dad is going to come pick you up and we're going to do this.
Right. So prevention there is quite important. So perhaps let's just come back. I mean, we're going to be focused quite a lot of, in this program on the integrated school health program. This was established sometime around 2012.
2012, correct, yes.
Can you just perhaps take us through, just broadly, the principles around the integrated school health program? What informed, the program being developed in the first place?
So the integrated school health program is a partnership. It's implemented jointly by Department of Basic Education, Department of Health, and Department of Social Development. And as we heard in the intro, it was really, and it is, an attempt to extend the reach of health services. So to take our health services beyond our clinics and health facilities to people. And one of the main parts of this drive, this process, is the school health program, where we take services into schools. The school health program has 3 main areas. The first is screening, that we've touched on a little bit. Secondly, health promotion, promoting healthy behaviors among our learners. And thirdly, then providing a limited range of services. If learners are found to have more serious health problems, they need to be referred to a clinic or hospital. But we do provide a limited range of services, particularly immunizations, and then treating some of the minor ailments that we talked about, skin problems, etc.
And the target ages, what's the target population for this?
So ideally, we would like to reach each learner 4 times during their 12 or 13 years in school. So once in each of the 4 educational phases. Currently, we're focusing mostly on our school entrance, so grade R and grade 1, and our grade 8s. We also do provide, you may be aware of the HPV campaign, providing immunizations to our grade 4s, but that kicks in a little bit later in the year.
So some people might say that there's a possible gap in that, when you start these services when the kids are at grade R and going into school, it might already be too late because, in the earlier years, there might be an opportunity there. Any comment on that? Anybody, you can comment.
I guess I think it's easy to reach them at this particular time. Although you could say when they are going to the various immunization clinics, they can still be picked up in the health facilities as having these challenges. And if we have motivated enough the parents to actually take cognizance of what is happening, we'll pass it on to the next caregivers while they are with them at school for those hours that they're there. Yes, I think if it's late, it's better late than never, than that we would still intervene and make things better for them.
Okay, I believe we have a caller on the line, Mrs. Lowe from Bloemfontein. Mrs. Lowe, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Can I make my name, Doctor?
Yes, please go ahead, Mrs. Lowe.
Doctor, I did school health services for 9 years, from 1986 to 1984, and then the school health nursing was abandoned. We also used to visit preschools, and it's so interesting the kind of defects that you discover with the children. I remember I even had a child with Turner's disease. We used to test them for color blindness. We used to test them for so many things, dominance, whether they have a dominant hand, whether the kids could walk straight on a line. It was so interesting. I'm so glad they decided to bring it back. The only thing is that they must really decentralize it, because the people in the rural areas are the ones that really need these services.
Okay. No, we couldn't agree with you more, Mrs. Lowe, and thank you so much for your comments. And we'll try and get a comment from Professor Bamford after the break, because now time for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion on school health. Please stay with us.
Working for SABC News, I can comfortably say that it has afforded me the opportunity to have a balanced view of society, covering live events from all over the country. I've seen the hunger that people actually have for independent and impartial news. I'm Nompumelelo Mthethwa, and I am SABC News.
Being a part of the SABC team news for me means keeping honesty as a priority within our society. Also, providing our audience with a sense of familiarity in an independent and impartial way. My name is Chibiwa Mbezi, and I am SABC News.
These teams of dedicated nurses are hopeful that the school's health program will be a success. But in order for that to happen, they also need the cooperation of parents.
The consent forms are extremely important because we cannot provide a service to a child without the consent of the parent. I would say there are lots of concerns for litigation. Obviously, a parent does not consent to a child receiving care. You cannot provide care to that child. There have been cases where doctors have actually challenged this consent, where the child is, for example, seriously sick and the parents refuse to actually treat the child, and the doctor in that case actually overrides or overrules the consent of the parent.
Before ingane size sithinte fanele ukuthi umzali uvumile uyabhala in writing ngoba ama consent ethu sisebenzisa lana abhalwe ngesizulu senzele ukuthi umzali ezo understand abakhona kama cases lapho khona umzali ebhalile nje ngepeni ukuthi angivumi ukuthi eyami ingane ihlolo enye kuyenzeka ukuthola ukuthi siyayibona yona ingane ukuthi ine problem kodwa umzali akavumi sigcine sitheke akasiceleleke yena umzali ukuthi akafike khona sizomchazela ukuthi kubaleke ngani ukuthi ingane ayihlolo.
Also, as part of the school's health program, the Department of Health will be providing mobile clinics to make it simpler for nurses to provide healthcare to children on the spot.
All right, so we continue our discussion then on school health with our guests, Professor Leslie Bamford from the National Department of Health, Dr. Ndiweni from Charlotte Matlaka Johannesburg Academic Hospital, and of course, Jenny Da Silva, educational psychologist in private practice. Let's start with you, Prof. We had the caller from Mrs. Lowe earlier, essentially sharing with us, what used to happen pre the integrated school health program. Now, one thing she said was she's happy that it's been brought back. Was there ever a lapse? What happened before 2012?
So it certainly is true. Pre-1994, school health services were provided, but actually they were provided to a very small proportion of children.
Right.
And for the most part, the most disadvantaged children in the most rural areas did not receive school health services. Post-1994, I think the emphasis was on building our primary health care system, making sure that clinics were available to the whole population. And that was the priority. Right. But then I think we realized around about in the build-up to 2012 that actually we did need to restart the school health program. So as we said, the integrated school health program was launched in 2012 with the aim of reaching the most disadvantaged children. So those are children who are in quintile 1 and quintile 2 schools. We do target all learners, but children in the most disadvantaged schools are prioritized.
Yeah. But these principles apply across the board, isn't that so? I mean,
the package of services is the same,
right,
and we do aim to provide it to all learners across all public schools.
Okay. So let's start talking about screening then. I mean, we're saying that it's important that children that start school get screened, and I think you made the point that the screening is probably best if it starts a little earlier. But let's start there to say, what are those important sections, or what are those important aspects of screening that need to happen before school-going age, and what does the integrated school health program cover in terms of screening at school? Let's start with you, Dr. Ndiweni.
Yes, one would say vision is one of the things that you would actually want to start early with, making sure that the child can actually see. The issues that usually will come up is that you may find that the teacher might also have identified before the screens come that this child doesn't seem to see on the board.
Yeah.
And frequently he or she will bring him to the front. That is indicating that there might be challenges there with the vision. And therefore it will be important when the health team comes through to actually assess how far the vision is. And if that cannot be discerned, which usually is the case, then we'll actually refer him to somebody who is specialized in that area, an ophthalmologist or somebody like that who would actually look at that and see how bad the vision is. There are others that may be far easy to note that there are problems. Maybe a child with a squint, and the teacher has realized that the squint, and will then say, look, when the team comes, this patient may be looked in properly or in a legal way, in a professional way, to see how much the vision is actually affected, and the assistance to come through. So that one is always the one that comes out quite quickly, because it would affect the learning quite easily. But there are other forms of screening that are also there. Is the hearing aspect.
Right.
And frequently, when the hearing is also affected or perturbed, there will also be speech-related issues. You may find that the speech is not actually appropriate, which would actually bring the teams which would actually assist with the speech therapy. And depending on whether they are easily amenable by speech therapy alone, they may eventually need neurological examination in case it needs. So will be referred to the next level for assistance if that's the case.
All right, let's take a call. We have Mabatu from Limpopo, I think it is. Mabatu, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
We're good. How are you, Mabatu?
Good, thanks. My comment is, when I was in primary, like around the ages of 10,
yes,
I had eczema. And then when I got to high school, I developed systemic lupus. And
say that again. You had sorry. We just want to make sure that we're hearing it clearly. You had eczema, and when you got to in primary school, and what happened when you got to high school?
When I got to high school, I developed systemic lupus.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes.
And then when I got to varsity, I was diagnosed with kidney failure. I had to start dialysis, but throughout the years when I was sick, there were no nurses or doctors coming to our school.
Right.
And when you were sick, like most parents in the township and teachers in the townships, they have no idea what's going on with you. They just send you to the clinic, and half the time, the doctors and the nurses don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Like even now, I struggle to get a GP who understands what kidney failure is. And in Limpopo, we do not have nephrology. So it's a problem. Right. So I feel like when I was still in school, if we had people who had an idea of what what I was dealing with, then maybe I would have been able to deal with this problem before.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad that now they're doing something about it, because I feel like a lot of kids could actually benefit from this.
Very much so. Well, thank you so much, Mabat, and hope all goes well with your health. Perhaps I can get a comment from a prof here. You've heard what she said. Do you want to comment, perhaps?
So I think one of the advantages of the school health program is that it has fostered a better working relationship between Department of Education and Department of Health, between schools and clinics. So whilst it is still true that our school health nurses provide services for common conditions, and unfortunately uncommon conditions, in general those learners will still need to be seen at our health facilities.
Yeah.
However, we do hope that because there is better understanding and cooperation between teachers and nurses, and that can assist learners who do have complex health problems.
Yeah. But I think often it's just the ability to recognize that something does not look normal, correct?
Correct.
All right. Let's involve you, Jenny, for a while. I mean, we're talking, obviously, let's talk risk assessment. You know, we're obviously saying in the screening, it's the way of trying to pick things up a little early before they become worse. From a mental and psychological aspect, what are those kind of trigger points that parents and teachers should be aware of?
Well, just with the learning aspect, doctor was saying now, and it's been mentioned now a couple of times, the visual screening. And sometimes, though, the visual screening comes out perfectly okay, but it is a focusing or related matter, or a visual processing difficulty.
Right.
So then you would see things like the child cannot write in a line, or the writing starts going downwards off the page. Then we know something's up. And same thing with hearing. So the hearing test can come out perfectly normal, and it is an auditory processing difficulty, where the child can hear it but cannot process it, and then things need to be repeated. In terms of emotional assessments and screening, you're basically looking for definitely any kind of shift in the child's behavior, becoming more clingy, trying to isolate themselves, not looking after themselves, hygiene issues, anything. Remember, and anything that happens in the family environment will affect the child. So definitely things like that. Also, how long a child takes to complete their work, how long, you're looking at processing speed, because it could be an indicator of an attention difficulty.
Right. So very, very important, very interesting issues. But we have Mpho on the line. Mpho, welcome to Health Talk.
Hello, Legai.
What's the name, ma'am?
From Pretoria.
Yes, ma'am.
Question aka ke papa ne ngwana ka nkile ba motlhaba injection ko sekolong.
Right.
Bona gore a motlhaka ntsha too much a enda pa le ko sepetlele.
Injection ya eng, ma'am?
Ba re ke ya bana for go ba protector for cancer because ke ngwana.
Okay.
So a sanga ya motshwara pile ba nda pile le gore o ko sepetlele. So my question ke gore injection ne tsantse re tlhabiwe a ina age because the woman sabana no the woman sabat aditwani.
Ngwana wa gago na le jara tse kae, ma'am?
She's turning 12 on the AC.
All right. Okay. Let's ask the experts. She has a daughter at school, and thank you so much for that very important question. She has a daughter at school, 12 years old, who had HPV injection, and she developed complications to a point where she had to go to hospital. And her question basically is, but she thinks that the age was inappropriate, and basically perhaps we can comment around what actually happened, and what should have happened, what shouldn't have happened there, or is it possible that you have such side effects from HPV that where the child ends up in hospital? I'll be interested in getting a comment from either of you.
Perhaps I can answer that. So just in terms of background, so we do offer the HPV vaccine to girls in grade 4 or grade 5. They have to be 9 years or older to receive the 2 doses of HPV.
Right.
The reason we give the vaccine is that it protects girls very well against cervical cancer, which is a very common and serious cancer in South Africa. The HPV vaccine is an extremely safe vaccine. We are aware, I think, of about 3 or 4 cases where complications were reported after the immunization. In all the cases that we investigated, it turned out that the complications were actually due to some other condition. So, for example, one girl was admitted. She had a high fever and some difficulty breathing. It was thought to be related to the vaccine. It turned out, in fact, she had pneumonia. When we're vaccinating a large number of girls at the same time, some of those girls will become sick within a week or 2 of the immunization, just by chance. From anything. As I say, all the cases that we've investigated where complications have been suspected from the vaccine, it has turned out that the vaccine was not responsible.
Yeah.
So we are confident that it is actually a very safe vaccine, and that the benefits that our girls gain from receiving those vaccine are large.
This is a very emotive subject, and I think we will in the near future, devote some time to talk about just this aspect of EPV. Time for another quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion on school health. Please stay with us.
Fashion, travel, music, food, and food. Did I mention food?
We at Trends Travel love bringing you cuisines from around the world.
Forbes US have declared Gabon the coolest city destination to visit in the world for 2018-2019.
As designers, we're always setting trends, and also doing like high fashion. So it was quite nice to come and see the ready-to-wears every day.
To be part of the SABC News team means
tell an independent and impartial African story.
I'm proud to be part of the SABC News team,
bringing business news to the man on the street and the executive in the boardroom.
We expose challenges faced by communities on a daily basis.
It is to take you behind the headlines, to show you the faces and take you to the places that make this country beautiful.
And that's the power of the SABC, to go beyond the story.
I am SABC News.
I am SABC News. I am SABC News.
And I am SABC News.
In my time, I've truly seen it all firsthand. Angizwanga ngizibonele ngalawam amehlo. Going through my photographs and reflecting on my memory box really brings back many life experiences that are bittersweet and humbling. In this, my homeland, I've entertained tourists and offshore traders. I've evolved from dealing with the battering system to trading foreign exchange. I've traveled to the ends of the world and tasted a diversity of culinary palates. To outsiders, I have lived alongside wild animals, tamed some, and collected livestock as wealth. So my memory box is overflowing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not bragging, but in fact, I'm breaking and hurting deep down inside of this heart of mine. Why? What for? I hear you ask yourself, my fellow Africans, friends and family. The images I have of me are those of the point of view of my onlooker, not those of myself, the subject at hand. I'm choking and suffocating at the chalice those anthropologists and filmmakers tie around me as some sort of grand name tag. Stories have been made and told of me, not of my own words. Films and graphic images have entertained millions of audiences at my expense.
Okay, welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. If you just joined us, we're talking school health with our special guests. First up is Professor Leslie Bamford, who's a specialist within the Child, Youth and School Health Directorate within the National Department of Health. Dr. Dalubuhle Ndiweni, a principal specialist pediatrician at Charlotte Maxeke Johannesburg Hospital. And we're now joined by Vusi Sape, who's a dietitian based at Butsilu Private Hospital in Soshanguve. Welcome to Health Talk.
Thank you, Dr. Zelo, and good morning also to the viewers at home.
All right. So we're talking school health, and we're going to be focusing a lot more in this segment on nutrition. But perhaps let's just start with you and talk about some of the common nutrition-related issues that we see at schools. I mean, what springs to mind immediately is the problem of obesity in children. Perhaps you want to comment further.
Well, I think the biggest one that has always been with us is malnutrition, basically.
Okay.
Where children are not growing properly because they're not getting enough food.
Yeah.
So that tends to be the biggest one.
Yeah.
The new kid in the block is obesity also, that has now started visiting us.
Yeah.
And all of them are in the extremes of issues and not being normal.
Yeah.
So they all need our attention, and they make us want to find out what they're frequently related to the social aspects,
right,
or the absence of the nutrition, which may be of financial nature, but others may be worsened by not knowing what to give the children.
And that's why Vusi is here to advise us on what to give and what not to give the children.
Right.
But before that, let's take Simon on the line from Pretoria. Simon, welcome.
How are you, sir?
We're good. How are you, Simon?
I'm good, man. I want to speak to with health because of, I like to say thank you for SABC to give me this chance to talk.
Yes.
The things that we're talking there on the SABC is a good thing, but we need to get another platform to set it out. First of all, I want to just go out of the line, but it's going to be a nice speech.
Going out of the line, I hope, doesn't mean that you're not going to talk about school health, Simon.
No. If you check it, the kids or the school, at the early age of maybe 15, 14, 5 years to go, the parents are just buying those kids cell phones and what, and then the things that doesn't appearing at school. The kids are going with those things, affecting the kids on the mind. If the point number 2, if you check the sport ground now, it's a lot of grass there. Nobody taking care about those kids to go and play hockey or football or whatever.
Right.
I'm talking about the locations. If you go at the corners now, those kids are playing WhatsApp, are playing Facebook. Yeah. Even if you can go at the teachers now, you can in the office, you can get the teacher WhatsApping, and then the kids are playing.
Yeah, very important.
With the other things that doesn't affect the health of the kid.
Yeah.
Because of me also, I was want to get the chance to meet somebody to help me to help those kids because of I'm a sportsman.
Yeah.
You understand? If I get that person to help me to go to the school and then motivate those kids and the teachers, and then every Wednesday, because of when I grow up, every Wednesday was a sports day.
Okay,
but
Simon, I'll tell you what, because our time is limited, I'm going to ask one of our producers to take your details, and we're going to make contact with you and see how best we can make use of your wonderful skills. But he's making very good points that perhaps relating to the problem of obesity, we spoke about earlier, that technology, the WhatsApp, and children focused on iPads and phones and so on. We'll come back to that. Right. Let's focus on nutrition. We've heard those nutrition-related problems, and perhaps let's get a bit more practical now and talk about what is it that parents should be doing to ensure that their children get optimum nutrition, perhaps both at home and at school.
Yes, definitely. When we look at one of those problems that Dr. Dabula has just talked about now, looking at malnutrition as it is, I don't want to look at diet at the fancy level. I want to study it at the low ground level, so that exactly what is it that we should be doing to our children, all right? So firstly, it will start at the home level. So we need to make sure that when we buy groceries or when we prepare food, it needs also to be taught to our children, because children looked at us as role models in the family. So if, like for instance, if the mother is not eating, for instance, spinach, I won't eat it as well because my mother is not eating that. Right. So it's quite very important for us when we dish up for these children, we start actually at home to teach them about fruits, to teach them about vegetables, to teach them about healthy eating, because it actually starts from there. Because if you start giving a lot of unhealthy foods from home, then eventually when it gets to the school as well, I wouldn't want to get a good lunchbox, you know what I mean? So when we look at the food groups, it's nice that now in South Africa we've got what we call South African Food Dietary Guidelines that we normally advise us to follow them. So looking at your food groups, you might want to look at the most essential, like the basics, like we're looking at your starches. I wouldn't say, Dr. Zulu, that there's a bad food or a wrong food. Yeah. It depends on the budget that we have in the household, the social matters that are actually there. Yeah. So we want to make sure that the diet still looks healthy, even if there's no enough fancy meals.
So let's try and help the parents here. So they're saying, what should I be giving my child for breakfast? Because you're told breakfast is one of the most important meals.
Important.
So what should a child going to school be eating before
at that particular time?
Secondly, what should I put in my child's lunchbox?
Sure. Very important point. Looking at the lunch boxes, like let's start with breakfast, the most important meal. They always say the fuel for the day. Yeah. So if we have a little bit of a starch, just to supply that energy. But it's quite important to choose a good starch, because sometimes
what's a good starch?
We need to look at the refined starches and the complex starches. Yeah. So there, what I mean is.
So is it pap? Is it cereals?
Yes, pap, cereals, bread.
Yeah.
dumpling. It depends what you have in the household. Right. So normally when I'm sorry to say good starch, like I said in the beginning, there's no good or bad food. Yeah. So that starch, it should provide that energy that the child needs. You know, it plays a very important role in the whole physiological well-being of the child. Okay. So when you also put the proteins as part of them to stay them focused a little bit, just to balance on those things. But what we have noticed is that we tend to buy all those nice juices and stuff.
But maybe let's talk about that because we're running out of time, unfortunately. Yes. So is the lunch boxes now? Yeah. What should parents be packing? That's practical.
If there's a complex starch, the example would be like brown bread, or lentils, legumes. They're also high in fiber as well. You can put that as part of the proteins as well. You can put eggs there. You can put carrot sticks. You can put asparagus sticks, different vegetables, cocktail tomatoes you can put as part of the lunch box. You can also try to give the low-fat milk that is unsweetened. And then if you want to go for the juices, you must go for the low kilojoules, like no sugar on them. But the most importantly, water is always the best. It helps with digestion. It makes sure that the food are digested correctly. So I'll advise the parents to have like those compartments, lunch boxes, so they can be creative, put the starch. If you put veggies, try to put them on shapes, try to be more creative because you need to entice these children to eat properly.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm aware that we've run out of time, but I just need a quick comment from you. Tuck shops in schools are a particular problem. Is there any policy whatsoever from the department, either education or health, in that aspect?
So this falls under Department of Basic Education. Right. As far as I know, they do have a draft policy. Really, the message is complex carbohydrates are good for children and as much fruit and vegetable as possible. Okay. We're really trying to get away from the fizzy drinks, the chips, the highly refined foods.
I think it's a good note to end it here because unfortunately we've run out of time. And thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, time for another quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up our discussion on school health. Please stay with us.
The Drakensberg is the name given to the eastern portion of Great Escarpments, which encloses the central Southern Africa plateau. The name means Drakensberge in Afrikaans and is called Ukahlamba in isiZulu, which means barrier of spears. The Drakensberg escarpment stretches for over 1,000 kilometers from Eastern Cape, then forms the border between Lesotho and the Eastern Cape, and the border between Lesotho and KwaZulu-Natal. It then forms the border between KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State, and next as the border between KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga. It winds north through Mpumalanga, where it includes features such as Blade River Canyon, 3 Rendezvous, and God's Window. The Drakensberg is the highest mountain range in the country, reaching 3,482 meters above sea level.
We are at the forefront of Africa's tech discussion.
We're already planning for the 5G spectrum to be licensed by 2020.
In Mauritius, for fiber migration, we had a strategy. On network, we have gadgets, robots, and more.
We focus on investing in entrepreneurs and technology in emerging markets.
There's technology and social media news on Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. and every Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
The attackers are still holed up inside the 14 Riverside Drive, and police are trying to pursue them.
The police and the Shabab are shooting. We were 15 persons in one room.
We suspect could be a terror attack.
14 innocent lives were lost through the hands of these murderous terrorists, with others injured. The security operation at Dusit Complex is over and all the terrorists eliminated.
The government having called off operations at the scene of the attack. Sarah Kimani, SABC News in Nairobi, Kenya.
Welcome back. We're talking school health with our guests, and we have a new set of guests, or different set of guests, let me say. We still have in the middle Dr. Dalubuhle Ndiweni, a pediatrician from Charlotte Maxeke, Johannesburg Academic Hospital. And then closest to me, we have Jenny Da Silva, an educational psychologist in private practice in Johannesburg. And of course, Jenny Nell, who's an occupational therapist also in private practice. Welcome, by the way.
Thank
Jenny.
you. Thanks.
All right. We're wrapping up our discussion in this segment. But before we do that, I believe we have Doreen on the line from the Val. Doreen, welcome.
Charlotte Maxeke. Ngwanona ona o tshwere ke diabetic.
Right.
Ha tshwere ke diabetic e be le go tsamaya treatment e bara. Bara be ba mo romela a lo dula Marang House, Northcliffe. Ha dula Marang House mo jere ba re ona na di behavior e seng right a lwantsha bana ba ba.
Okay.
E be le go ba mo ntsha ba ga ba no kgona go cope ka yena. Ene bana ba sa njwetsa nna.
Right.
Then e be le hore Maoba, which is on Monday. Ke lata referral ya hae ho ke mo ntshe ke mokise Midval matlo ke na sekolo teng go bana ha ke no kgona go travel ho tloha me ya tshone hore ke ye Charlotte Maxeke.
Ona le motse ka ngwana?
Ona le motse 12.
Okay.
O tshwere ke diabetic ana di 6 years.
All right. Okay.
Then ha ke lata transfer ya hae hore ke mo khutsetse ba doctor ha ngola abanjetsa hore o ha ngotsi mona a ba go ona le mental disorder.
Yeah.
And then that's a kimutite mon kimite skolo sa bana ba normal.
Okay.
Jana ha ke tsebe gore na ha ile jalo ke etse jwana na.
All right. Thank you so much, Doreen. Very quickly, it's a question for you, Dr. Ndiweni. Basically, she has a 12-year-old child who developed diabetes at the age of 6 and appears to have some other problem that she was told that she hasn't got normal behavior. That's why she was sent to a special school linked to Charlotte Maxeke Johannesburg Academic Hospital, and was at something like Marang House, something like that. And she lives quite far from Johannesburg, and her issue is that she can't afford to be traveling long distances from Merton in the Vaal to come and see the child, but then wanted to take the child out of the school to a normal school. And so the problem there is of course that she was told that the child has a mental disorder. Perhaps you want to comment?
I think the first instance we would love to explain to her what that mental disorder is. I think it's difficult to just conclude it is this and that, and could be multiple things at play here. I think the very fact that we kept him, is it here at Marang House?
We're not sure, yeah.
Yes, it's a place of safety for some of our children who are actually staying away from, far away from the hospital.
Yeah.
And maybe the traveling to school and hospital is a problem.
So essentially, it's not a good idea for her to take the child out of that school because it's a special kind of environment.
We would say we usually would guide them which schools will be available.
Yeah. Okay.
With our neurodevelopmental team, we would actually guide her what to do.
Yeah.
I think the issue is we will not obstruct her from taking a child where it feels, except that if it is not going to benefit the child.
Obviously, this is a complicated and we don't have much time.
Yeah.
Perhaps what she should do is consult and discuss this problem with the health professionals.
Yes, I think we are always open. She can pop around and we will actually guide her.
All right. Let's start with you, Jenny. We spoke earlier about the problem of obesity and physical activity and so on. We haven't got, unfortunately, a lot of time, but we're going to try and fit in as much as possible.
Yes.
Physical activity, the importance of physical activity in children, what should children be doing, and yeah, your advice.
Yeah, children should be playing. They should be climbing on top of things, under things, to the side of things, not just for the pure, simple sense of physical activity, you know, in terms of obesity and losing weight, but in terms of developing their muscles, developing coordination, developing their sensory integration skills. The other Jenny mentioned about auditory and vision, sensory integration, but there's more than that. Everything I touch, feel, see, my brain's got to understand that, and if I don't play outside, I'm not going to develop that, which means I'm going to struggle in the classroom as well.
Yeah. Should there be structured playing or participating in sport?
No, not necessarily. It's always good to give them an idea or a game or, you know, some setup that helps their imagination at times, but just to let them free play, that's amazing for them. And we take that away more often than not.
All right. Free ad for 30 seconds. What's the role of an occupational therapist in school?
Occupational therapists help with the development of children. So whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's cognitive development, they just assist the child throughout that process.
Okay. The one aspect, Jenny, that we wanted to talk about is behavior. There's acceptable, so-called acceptable behavior and unacceptable behavior for, you know, involving kids. Perhaps you wanted to comment on that?
You know, it's again what is linked to certain problems, but you're looking for behaviours. You know, you're shouting, screaming, temper outbursts, obviously unacceptable behaviours, but also having a look at impulsivity, inattention, that again could link to ADHD, anxiety, this blanking out during exams. Those are things to keep in mind as well.
Most of the things that you've mentioned, I mean, a lot of kids do. At what point does it become a worry to a point of saying this child needs to be seen by a professional? Just in 30 seconds.
You know, it's when it becomes, when you start linking behaviors. So not only is the child a bit impulsive all the time, but they are also sensitive to noise.
I'll tell you what, we're going to preserve, we're going to have a full program on this in future, but unfortunately we really have run out of time. Thank you so much for your input, and for you folk at home, thank you so much for staying with us. We're back on your screens again next week, same time, same place, and until then, please do take care.